Nobody's marching for the dead Muslims in Yemen. Their co-religionists, we're always told about, care so much about their co-religionists, don't give a damn about their co-religionists.
Explicitly, and I quote the various scholars and writers who've been pushing this for years, this is explicitly the aim. It's a basis for madness. When people say the gay community, who are you talking about?
As soon as they get the power, they expose their fundamental illiberal views. They function like a Trojan horse or an evil uncle who arrives with a bouquet of flowers and leaves with the only ways you've had.
Douglas Murray is a British author, journalist, and political commentator who is celebrated for his sharp critiques of modern social and political issues, especially those surrounding identity politics, immigration, and the rise of woke activism.
That they believe, for instance, that being a woman should be merely the first step in a wider mission to bring down capitalism. Now,
his fearless approach to debate and meticulous research have established him as a leading voice in controversial yet essential conversations about the future of Western societies.
It's like, women think this. Oh, really? 50% of the species all agree on something.
Douglas Murray recalls his encounter with Flavia, a self-identified woke activist, as both revealing and frustrating. From the very start, it was clear that this exchange would be a more complex meeting of minds. Flavia's opening statements brimmed with condescension, reflecting an overly simplistic view of complex issues like European identity and demographics.
Every populist movement has at its center the goal of destroying these institutions, even though they are often democratically elected, which shows the liberal nature of the democratic system.
While Flavia framed herself as a champion of progress, Murray understood the gravity of the topics at hand. The debate was not merely about opinions, but about the broader implications for societal cohesion, national identity, and Europe's future. Her remarks, which casually dismissed his views as populist drivel, signaled a troubling refusal to engage with the nuances of the issues he raised.
Once in power, they have only one goal: to deconstruct liberal institutions. Right-wing populists like Douglas Murray attack these institutions because they want arbitrariness, they want chaos, they want the rule of law not to be the strongest but to be the fittest who survives. Because they are part of that small elite, the privileged few.
As the debate unfolded, Flavia sought to undermine Murray's credibility by labeling him a relic of the past. She described his concerns about immigration and cultural shifts in Europe as reactionary and out of step with modern values. But Murray, unshaken, responded with clarity and precision.
1960s, say, which isn't that long ago, this means a total transformation of the capital city of the country you're in. Now, I suggest that some people deprecate that, some people love it, most people have a very mixed view towards it, but to pretend that it isn't a very significant change to occur in a lifetime is nonsensical. I suggest that if we solve this sort of problem...
He emphasized that demographic changes in Europe were not hypothetical, but observable realities. Drawing on recent UK census data, he explained how populations in major cities, such as London, had transformed. For example, white British citizens are now a minority in many boroughs. These shifts, he argued, are neither inherently negative nor positive, but warrant open and honest discussion, something that Flavia seemed unwilling to entertain.
If we solve this sort of problem, it'll be done not by pretending that it's invented by, crazy theorists or something, but by recognizing that there are a set of competing problems that we face.
Murray articulated the duality of mercy and justice when addressing immigration. He acknowledged the moral imperative to assist those fleeing hardship, while stressing the need to consider the rights and concerns of native populations. This balance, he argued, needs to be addressed by activists who reduce debates to simplistic binaries of good versus evil.
A set of competing virtues, which in the case of Europe in the 21st century, are a competition between justice and mercy. That is, we wish to have justice for people coming, we wish to have mercy to people fleeing other places. But we also need to have a sense of justice for people in Europe who pay their taxes, who have been decent citizens, and need to be asked if there are going to be massive societal changes that will take place, because we're not petri dishes.
Flavia, by contrast, offered a romanticized vision of Europe as a utopia of freedom and opportunity. She painted a picture of traveling through picturesque cities and savoring simple pleasures, an image divorced from the anxieties of many citizens witnessing dramatic changes in their neighborhoods. Murray recognized her vision as aspirational, but argued that it needed to address pressing challenges.
I want to drink Vinho Verde in Lisbon. I want to go there by night train, wearing a leopard-patterned pyjama in a compartment full of strangers. I want to have oranges for breakfast and know exactly where they come from. And there's only one place in the world where you have the freedom and the possibility to do this. And that's Europe. Because Europe stands for freedom, Europe stands for opportunities and possibilities.
I'm so fed up of the double standards on all of this. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Muslims have been killed in the last 12 years by Bashar al-Assad and other Muslims in the civil war in Syria. There's no one on the streets of Sydney or Melbourne. There's no one on the streets of London. We have seen hundreds of thousands of people killed.
Throughout the discussion, Murray's calm yet incisive approach exposed the shallowness of Flavia's arguments. She leaned heavily on emotional appeals, speaking of hope and diversity, but rarely offered concrete evidence to back her claims. Her lack of preparation became evident as she struggled to counter Murray's well-reasoned points.
Europe stands for opportunities and possibilities, but it also stands for dignity, decency, and respect. Europe learned the hard way, not once, but twice. Only fools and Douglas Murray would give up.
Murray methodically questioned her assumptions, often asking her to clarify ambiguous terms like populism. He pressed her to explain why she believed it was inherently harmful, highlighting that such dismissive language often alienates the very people activists claim to represent. This strategy left Flavia floundering as she needed more substantive responses to his challenges.
Is there anything, for starters, in Flavia's speech that you would agree with?
There wasn't very much in it. What I mainly got was an I want list, followed by a set of claims and rather presumptuous insults. It was hard to find any meat there at all on the bone.
Murray took the opportunity to address the common misconceptions about populism. He argued that populism is not necessarily a threat to democracy, but can serve as a legitimate expression of frustration from those who feel unheard by political elites. He cited Brexit and other European movements as examples of citizens demanding accountability from unresponsive governments.
By contrast, of course, it's obviously very much the case that she's read and absorbed everything I've written, which is why she's so happy to be so insulting when she meets me almost in person. So no, there wasn't very much to pick up on other than the rather ill-spoken, ill-lettered and rude attempts to attack me. And I'm sorry about that because I think that it demonstrates her own personal failing as much as it does a failing of the cause that she would like to lead before she got tired and decided to get out.
Flavia's characterization of populists as destructive revealed her disconnect from these grassroots movements. She failed to recognize that many who support populist causes are driven not by hate, but by genuine fears about their future. Murray suggested that this inability to empathize undermines the credibility of those who dismiss populism outright.
It was hard to find any meat there at all on the bone. That might be because it's rather hard to find any work that Flavia has done other than a tiny campaign in a tiny country.
The debate underscored the ideological chasm between Murray and Flavia. While Murray sought to engage with substantive ideas about identity and belonging, Flavia relied on labels and accusations, her strategy of vilifying dissenting opinions backfired, as it highlighted her inability to grapple with opposing viewpoints meaningfully.
I've always noticed, wish to engage on the serious terrain. When I speak with leading politicians across Europe, who I happen to disagree with, I find that the most important and impressive ones do not get up and read bucket lists of what they'd like to do and then insult people. I find that they try to, for instance, understand what other people are thinking.
Murray argued that meaningful dialogue requires an effort to understand different perspectives. Resorting to name-calling, he said, only entrenches divisions and stifles progress. His critique of Flavia's approach resonated with many in the audience, who could see the futility of her antagonistic tactics.
Try to understand what the public might be thinking. For instance, they might try to work out whether the public is sometimes trying to tell them something, and whether the public who they disagree with might not in fact be onto something on occasion. After all, it's very easy to draw rather comfortable lines around yourself and your own ideology, such as it is, and declare that everyone on the other side of it is, for instance, an evil populist or a fool. That's right, a fool.
For Murray, European identity is rooted in shared history, cultural heritage, and values that transcend political institutions. He explained that institutions like democracy and the rule of law cannot thrive in isolation. They rely on a cohesive cultural foundation. Flavia seemed to miss this critical point in her focus on abstract liberal principles.
What an amazing way to speak about somebody else to their virtual face. And what an extraordinary way to speak about majority population votes in our continent. I see very little likelihood of anyone like Flavia, for as long as she remains in the public eye, being able to achieve anything much, because she keeps dismissing the public.
She argued passionately for the preservation of institutional integrity, but failed to address the cultural and historical context that sustains these systems. Murray's perspective, which linked identity with governance, offered a more holistic understanding of Europe's challenges and opportunities.
And the public tend not to like that.
Flavia, your opportunity to respond to that. Let's take up on this last phrase, the public.
When challenged, Flavia attempted to shift the focus by touting her past successes in opposing right-wing populists. However, these anecdotes did little to counter Murray's points. Her reliance on personal triumphs came across as defensive, exposing her struggle to engage with the substance of the debate.
Right, I can only say...
Are you reaching them?
I'd say so. I won 7 times against right-wing populists with big majorities. I don't have more to add.
Murray capitalized on this moment, reminding her that electoral victories are not synonymous with moral or intellectual superiority. He emphasized that the concerns of ordinary citizens, often dismissed by elites, must be taken seriously if democracy is to remain robust.
Let's see if we can get somewhere with the two of you. Flavia has argued, I would say, as I listened to her, that the best starting point for a European identity would be the liberal institutions. Douglas, what would be your starting point for a European identity?
Well, you have to start at a much more fundamental and deeper level than that.
Does it get any more fundamental and deep, I wonder?
Yes, of course.
The debate concluded with Murray emerging as the clear victor. His ability to remain composed while presenting well-researched arguments stood in stark contrast to Flavia's emotionally charged but unsubstantiated rhetoric. His performance demonstrated the value of engaging with difficult topics thoughtfully and respectfully.
I think it gets a lot deeper. Before you get institutions, you have to have the ideas and the philosophy that produce such institutions. Institutions are not just land like food parcels in countries.
I agree.
Yeah, so they come from somewhere. So clearly there is a deeper level, despite your attempt just now to pretend there isn't. Clearly there is, so we could agree on that.
This encounter serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of intellectual rigor in political discourse. In an era of polarized debates and cancel culture, Murray's approach offers a model for addressing contentious issues without succumbing to hostility or oversimplification.
The deeper level is, where do the institutions come from? Where are the ideas that the institutions come from? Now, I would say that in the case of Europe, there is a very deep set of ideas which you can draw out with some understanding across the continent, and are best seen when you look at the continent from anywhere else. I think to some extent, Flavia's ignorance of my thought is betrayed by the fact she seems to think I'm, among other things, some weird right-wing populist nationalist.
From Murray's vantage point, woke activism often prioritizes ideology over reality. He views the movement as one that stifles debate by labeling dissenting voices as ignorant or malicious. This trend, he argues, poses a significant threat to open dialogue and critical thinking.
But one thing I've repeatedly said is that there is clearly such a thing as a European identity, because you know it so clearly when you're not in Europe. I've spent a lot of my life traveling all around the world, and as I write in one recent book, there's nothing that makes you feel so close to Europe or so clear about what it means than, for instance, if you're standing in China.
Murray's critiques are not born out of opposition to progress, but a belief that progress must be grounded in evidence and reason. He sees woke culture's reliance on emotional appeals and identity politics as a departure from these principles, leading to division rather than unity.
They have no love for the Palestinian peoples. None. If they had any, the Jordanians would have taken in the West Bank Palestinians, the Egyptians would have taken in the territory they used to run, the Gaza, and own the Gaza, and they would have taken in the Palestinians.
Reflecting on the debate, Murray emphasizes the importance of creating spaces where differing views can be discussed without fear of libel. He believes that fostering mutual understanding is essential for addressing the complex challenges facing society today.
Really? Now, this is, let me put it another way. If somebody said, I don't know, I just love the working class. Who?
Yeah.
I just love the middle class. Who? I love the upper class. Who are you talking about?
Does the rise of cancel culture and the tendency to silence opposing voices undermine the principles of free speech and democracy? Douglas Murray believes so and demonstrates a better way forward by engaging respectfully with critics like Flavia. Isn't it time we value dialogue over dogma? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to join us in fostering more honest conversations.